This gem of a bookshop, Solidaridad in Ermita, Manila, is one of the most famous bookstores and cultural hubs in Southeast Asia. It was established in 1965 by national artist for literature F. Sionil Jose. This week on Profiles, we get into the mind of the 92-year-old national artist for literature, Francisco Sionil Jose, fondly known as Manong Frankie, whose works highlight the social fabric, class struggles, and colonial history of our society. Among his masterpieces, the Rosales Saga, a vivid documentary of Filipino life captured in 5 novels encompassing 100 years of Philippine history. Sionil Jose has received many accolades for his work, including the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Journalism, Literature, and Creative Arts, Philippine National Artist, the Pablo Neruda Centennial Award, and Officer in the French Order of Arts and Letters. We look back at valuable lessons in Philippine history, life, and love with this living legend. First, an initial profile of the quintessential writer with some fast talk. What is your trademark characteristic?
Frankness. Candor, candidness, yeah.
Yes. What is one of your favorite movies?
Emiliano Zapata.
About a favorite song?
That French song, Falling Leaves. Da 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 dee. Yeah.
Your favorite food or comfort food?
Ilocano dinengdeng. Yeah.
What do you think is the most admirable Filipino trait?
Tenacity and courage. We are a very heroic people.
Name one of your favorite authors.
Oh, Rizal, of course.
And one of your favorite books?
I have 3, because these were the first 3 books that I've read. Dinoli and the Fili, Don Quixote, and my Antonia by Willa Cather.
If you could have a superpower, what would that be?
I'd like to be a dictator.
Is that a superpower?
Yeah.
I've always dreamt to come here to Solidaridad, and now here with you, it's 53 years old. I want to ask you about how it all began.
When I got back from Ceylon in 1965, I had a little saving and also a funding from the Congress for Cultural Freedom. With this money, I was supposed to set up a journal, which is Solidarity. First, I was looking just for an office for the publishing house. My father-in-law said, "Why don't you look at that old house in Padre Faura?" But I said, I need only 1 room.
It's too big.
Yeah, it's too big. But my wife said, let's make it into a bookshop. So we started the bookshop. Parang sideline lang sana. Right. I wanted to make money with the publishing house, with the magazine. The bookshop ended up the milking cow.
Imagine.
But more than that, it became a kind of saloon,
Yes.
with that round table, with writers coming here regularly. Hindi lang mga writers, many of our so-called, quote, political and intellectual leaders, Ninoy Aquino, Manglapus, Peláez, Jokno, they all came here at that time.
So you would gather and just talk?
Yes. And discuss things around that round table.
So if this table could talk,
oh yes,
the stories it could tell.
It could tell you a lot.
What would you talk about? For example, tell me about one of these conversations.
Halo-halo about culture change, about the heavy American influence, not only on our culture but on our political life. We also talked about the revolution.
This also became the headquarters of the Philippine Center of International Pen. So that's the poets, playwrights, essayists, novelists, which still meets until today, no?
Yeah.
Every last Saturday of the month.
When I formed it in 1957, we were all young. Through the years, and particularly through the Marcos regime, one thing about writers' organizations, you don't know how important they are for emotional support. But you will find this out when a society is oppressed or under a dictatorship. Because one of the first things that dictators want to get rid of, is free expression. And during those Marcos years, we as writers, who were opposed to Marcos. We felt very defenseless and isolated because many of us were imprisoned. I shouldn't complain because it's really nothing, compared to those who were tortured and imprisoned and killed. I was not allowed to travel only for 4 years. Yeah. See? So, writers' organizations, in that sense, are very important. They form a sense of community and a very real bulwark, against freedom of expression.
When Solidaridad opened in 1965, Manong Frankie curated the books carefully, slowly building up a remarkable inventory.
And at the time, you chose all those. Until now, actually, every title goes through you.
Yeah. I go through many catalogs, and I'm very selective. I keep away from bestsellers.
Talaga?
Yeah, because they don't sell. Really, they don't really sell.
And this is the first bookstore in the Philippines that had aircon, had music.
Yeah.
And with the most titles of Filipino
No,
authors.
at saka hindi lang yon, that has become a kind of literary saloon.
Yes, right.
Because of that place upstairs.
Yes, the gathering of great minds.
Yeah.
Until today.
Not necessarily great minds.
I have to great minds when we named, one of your best friends, one of your best, Nick Joaquin is among those, no?
Yeah.
He'd come here often.
Oh, almost every week.
Oo.
He comes here at usually around 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
When Nick and I were together, much of our conversation was nostalgia. He was really in love with old Manila, not just old Intramuros, but old Manila. This was the Forbes Park of Manila. Yeah.
And you choose to have classics here because you believe that is the foundation.
For those who want to write, there's nothing like going back to the classics. Because everything is there. Actually, there is almost nothing new that writers can write about.
Yes.
What you must do is to give your old plots a new dress.
Yes.
Make them modern, relevant,
National Artist for Literature Sionil Jose says imagination enriched his childhood.
So what was it like growing up for you? What was your childhood like?
I couldn't consider my childhood unhappy. There are always ways, no matter how poor you are, that kids can enjoy themselves. Imagination, number one. I made my own toys, halimbawa. I like going around, wandering. At saka, doon sa probinsya, there are many ways a boy can enjoy himself. Swimming in the creeks, the flooded irrigation ditches, racing the water buffaloes, taking care of them.
So much fun. You're in nature.
Yeah. When we were in grade school, we used to steal yung pakwan and put it in the river and eat it in the afternoon. My kids, sabi pa, parang nililigo ka dyan, ang dumi-dumi.
You took up a pre-med course. You thought you were going to be a doctor.
Oh, yes. One reason is I work as an aide or an assistant to a rich cousin who was a doctor. When the Americans arrived in Rosales in, I think, around December 1944 or earlier, I joined the medical corps.
So what happened? Why didn't you pursue the medical path?
After the war, I went back to Manila immediately and enrolled at the Manila College of Pharmacy because Santo Tomas was closed. Then I moved to Santo Tomas.
You pursued liberal arts after that
And
because
that's
you
when-
failed biochemistry.
I flunked biochemistry.
Okay, well, thank goodness because you became, if not, we would not have a national artist for literature.
Manong Frankie and his wife Tessie share the story of how they met, way back in college at a friend's birthday party.
I was going away from the party when she was coming in.
So about that party, so you were there and then she walks in.
Yeah.
So what happened? You noticed her immediately.
Bumalik ako. Bumalik ako.
And then, did you notice him?
No. Yung guy,
Chaperone.
You were a chaperone.
she was chaperone of a classmate. Yeah.
Of your classmate.
Of my
Not
classmate.
mine.
So who made the introduction? How did you meet?
Wala, kami na.
So you approached her.
Yeah.
Would you say it was love at first sight?
Siya.
Oh, naman. They were asking me, do you know him? I said, no. Do you read the Varsitarian? I said, no.
And then you started courting her.
Yeah, of course.
So you began.
Hindi agad, did you?
So a year after yung ligawan, you eloped.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to elope?
Wala akong pera.
No, also at the same time, my parents didn't like me to get married to a journalist.
Yeah.
Because there's no money.
Not because it was personal, but because my profession.
You felt walang future.
Yeah, at saka walang pera mga writers na yan. Alam naman nila. And it's true, even to this very day.
But true wealth is not about money, right?
I'd rather take the money.
So did you make the right choice marrying him?
Okay lang.
Are you romantic at heart, would you say?
All writers are romantics.
True.
All artists are romantics.
That is true.
Yeah.
What keeps the love alive almost 7 decades on for you?
Give and take. Yeah.
Yeah.
The acceptance of one's faults.
Yes. And you know,
And the capacity to ask forgiveness.
when you're writing your books, you probably get so immersed. Sometimes you
yes.
don't eat and sleep, no?
Yeah.
How do you keep a balance to make sure, okay, I'm still talking to my wife, my kids, I'm sure through the
No.
years as you wrote
No, ganito
these
yan.
books?
When we didn't have the means, and we were living in this small accessoria in Singalong, even with all the noise, children, I was able to work. Pero ngayon, no, if I have a good writing project, I go out of the country.
When he's busy, when he's writing, we know when he's writing because we could hear the typewriter. So that means stay away from him. None of us siblings became writers because he doesn't like to have any competition. My father's, sometimes he's strict, sometimes he's lenient, but more often he's more lenient towards us and very compassionate. Number one lesson I learned from my father was be on time, be diligent, and be compassionate towards others.
It's such a wonderful privilege to spend the day with National Artist for Literature, F. Sionil Jose. Now he tells us about his creative process.
It's the thinking out that takes so long. Sometimes the actual writing, just like that.
Which you do under typewriter. You still work on your typewriter
Yeah,
there.
and in longhand also.
So these are all your journals.
No,
Yeah,
journal,
you
yeah.
keep journal.
This is in your novel, so you can see that some
Process. Wow, so longhand and some are typed out.
When I'm able to go out, even just for 2 weeks, pagdugtong-dung ko, yan, because the ending is already finished.
So gagawa po ba kayo ng outline muna?
No, not in
Right.
that sense. It's all here. What I make a list of are the characters. Pedro, 5'5", Kung hindi, if you don't make if you don't have a clear image of them, baka mamaya.
Iba na yung describe nyo.
Yeah, and that's very
Yes.
important.
And you've always written in English. Did you ever attempt to write in the Filipino?
In Ilocano, nung
In
araw.
Ilocano.
Yeah, but I'm inadequate,
So it shouldn't be some people judge one's nationalism through the language that they're able to use, but it should not mean what you're saying. Some people, it's just whatever you're most comfortable writing in.
Yes. That's what I always tell young people. You write in the language that you're most comfortable in.
Yes.
Yeah.
In all your characters, there's a bit of yourself.
Oh,
would
all
you
the
say?
time.
Yes.
It's the ideas, even those that even those things that you don't like, they're reflected there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's inevitable because, like I said, artists, not just writers, are the most egoistic people there are. We write from our lives.
Yeah.
Manong Frankie's writing career began about 70 years ago as a journalist, working as a reporter for a news daily.
And what was it like then, being a journalist?
It was never boring. Yeah,
Certainly.
my beat was labor, and one of the offices that I covered was the Congress for Labor Organizations. This was the Communist Front in Azcárraga.
Later on, you were branded as a communist, no?
Hindi lang yun. CIA agent pa.
Oh, they thought this bookstore was a CIA front.
Yeah. I started this bookshop with the funding, tulong from the so-called Congress pour la Liberté de la Culture in Paris. Sometime around 67, I think, or 68, a reporter or a writer exposed the fact that the Congress, which funded me, funded this journal. It was exposed as having been funded by the CIA. And that's it. My wife and I were very worried.
Yeah.
Naku, wala nang pupunta sa tindahan natin. The following day, punong-puno ang bookshop. they were
Controversy, they want to see what the CIA front is like.
Ang dami-dami.
Most of your work really focuses on class struggle.
Class struggle is still very much a necessity.
It is.
But not the way the communists are planning it.
Okay, Manong Frankie, you have lived through 15 presidents, starting
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Manuel Quezon. Who is your favorite president?
Oh, undoubtedly, without any equivocation, it's Magsaysay.
Why?
The big politicians did not campaign among the lower classes. Magsaysay went direct. When he committed mistakes, he corrected them immediately.
What would you say about President Duterte?
Duterte is to me a big question mark because I'm not too sure where he is heading. Playing footsie with the Marcoses is definitely against him. And he has many policies that are divisive. I like his approach, of course, to the armed conflicts that we have. And for that, he has to rely on the armed forces.
Yes.
And he needs to improve the armed forces.
And we certainly see him working
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
now.
yeah.
What would you say was, they always talk about the struggling artist, the struggling writer. What was your biggest struggle as an artist, as a writer?
The real struggle of any writer is really how to produce. Another thing is, our main literature is in English. Why haven't we produced more? And why haven't we gained a global audience since we write in English?
Why is that?
I think so much depends on the kind of stuff we write, although we write in English. I can only speak for myself. Kaya natin. We can do it. When the Russians published me, I asked my Russian translator, "You are publishing me in Russia because you find some Marxism in my work?" Sabi niya, "Kiko, no. We publish you in Russia because," he said, "you express the Filipino condition beautifully." In other words, I bring my Filipino-ness into my writing.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell me about this book that you're working on.
It's called Esperanza. It's about a man who loses everything but still keeps steadfast in his faith without getting all these things back.
Looking back at life, what is it that really makes you happiest? What did you say?
The few instances that I really feel I am appreciated. Once, I got a letter from my own daughter. Sabi niya, "Dear Papa, I always took you for granted because you are my father. I read your story, Waya Waya, and it was so moving, I cried." And
Wonderful. That
yun
is,
lang, yeah. That's from Gigi.
Those
Yeah,
priceless,
yeah,
really.
Mga things like those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to even just put you into a category. You are a legend, living legend, a
come
giant, a luminary. What is your profile? Essentially, how would you like to be known?
The epitaph on my tombstone.
Are you like to be like?
Meron na.
Meron na?
Yeah,
O, ano yun?
Sabi ko, he wrote stories and believed in them. Ayan.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for bringing us faith in our own humanity and really teaching us so much. Thank you very much, Manong Frankie. You have lived through 15 presidents starting from the time of Manuel Quezon. Who was your... Ay, sir, yung ano yung umakit na. Oh, naka-shorts na kayo. Mamaya. Okay, sorry. Okay, ulit.